I think reading, once you've learned it, reading and arithmetic, you can take in so much, and you can take it in on your own time schedule. If somebody's talking to you, he may be telling you something you don't want to know, you already know, it's too hard, or he's going too fast or too slow. Yeah. But when you're reading, you can just take it as you want it. So it's just God's gift. If you're into self-education, there's nothing like reading. And of course, people who do a lot of it have an enormous advantage. Of course, if you learn your own language, that's a very useful gift. And of course, learning the basic math of life is another tremendous gift. And if you're really good at picking up language and doing just basic arithmetic, you can take enormous territory. You don't need much else. Specialization is the safest way up for most people. And for that reason, say surgeons know more and more about less and less. And that's what gets rewarded. And if you have a nasty fistula in your colon, you do not want a surgeon who's good at Proust or political science. It's understandable how the world rewards this specialization. I never liked it, and I loved picking up new ideas, being a great, passionate reader. And so I decided I'd make whatever living I could make doing what I like to do, which is sort of romping over a whole field. I do not recommend it to other people because the safe way up is to know a hell of a lot about something. And under our system, they find you out. I have never looked at a calculus problem since I left Caltech. Never left it. Never looked once, never used it. And I was a whiz. By the way, I went away totally. 70 some years, that was enough. Yeah, I don't know about your calculus, but mine is gone. And so, but this other stuff never goes away. And if you keep honing it and if you get good at it, then you learn something that's more important than what they teach you in college, is you learn the method of learning. When I want to know something, I just learn it. And take, for instance, I got to the Harvard Law School. I couldn't figure out how Reverend Moon was inviting people out to one weekend, and they came back brainwashed zombies for the rest of their lives. And nobody in the Harvard Law School could explain it to me. So I said, I'll figure it out for myself. It took me a long time. But I finally figured out to my satisfaction exactly what was being done. They just stumbled into this through practice evolution. It wasn't calculated forethought. They just assembled a bunch of psychological tricks and pounded them on these people all at once under conditions involving stress. And at a certain point, the brain would just snap. And they had these people transformed into slaves. Boom. Well, that was a very interesting thing, but of course nobody wants to talk about it because it has implications, people fear. But I think that that habit of if they won't explain it to you, figure it out for yourself, has helped me enormously in life. It's also hurt me, because you give terrible offense when you go into somebody else's profession and act like you know more than he does. Right. And I'm much smoother now than I was when I was young. And I'm still pretty insufferable. I would try and relate the changes in the graph and in the data to what happened in the business. And so there are all these wonderful lessons in those graphs. And I don't know why people don't do it. The graphs don't even exist that I would use to teach. I can't imagine anybody being dumb enough not to have the kind of graphs I yearn for. But so far as I know, there's no business in the school in the country that's yearning for these graphs. Partly the reason they don't want it is that if you taught a history of business this way, you'd be trampling on the territories of all the little professors and subdisciplines. You'd be stealing some of their best cases. And the bureaucracies, even academic bureaucracies, people protect their own turf. I really think the world, that's the way it should be taught. Harvard Business School once taught it much that way, and they stopped. And I'd like to make a case study as to why they stopped. I think I can successfully guess. It's a course in history of business trampled on the territory of barons of other disciplines, like the baron of marketing, the baron of finance, the baron of whatever. And this IBM is an interesting case. I mean, there's just one after another that are utterly fascinating. And I don't think they're properly taught at all because nobody wants to do the full sweep. My grandfather Munger had been born in extreme poverty. His two parents were school teachers in a little town in Nebraska, and 2 school teachers' income enabled him to buy the meat for dinner every night at the butcher shop. He went to the butcher shop with a nickel, and he bought the parts of the animal nobody else would eat. Now, if you start life that poor and make your own way, which my grandfather did, you're quite a fellow. And he was self-educated, and not self-educated in a rudimentary way. I mean, he spoke Greek and Latin, self-educated. And so I had very interesting people as my examples. And my grandfather Munger believed down to the soles of his feet in being rational. And he worked at it. And I watched it, and of course it had worked well for him. It had made him district attorney and president of the Bar Association, and finally a very young federal judge, and he served as the only federal judge in his capital city for almost 40 years. I mean, he had a splendid life. And he always lived way below his income and was able to help other people when they needed help. He was a very good example. And he was kind of firm about it. He never took a drop of liquor in his whole life. Somebody asked him once, why don't you drink? And he says, why would I take money out of my pocket and put something in my mouth that would make my head work less well?